Welcome to Surrender School.
At Surrender School, we recover. Our mission is to share 12-step and other supportive recovery solutions with those who want a healthy relationship with food. We are not an official 12-step meeting, but we do try to adhere to the spirit of the traditions. If Surrender School has helped your recovery in any way, please consider donating. You can find the donate button at the bottom of the landing page of our website. And let's bring it in. Take a few deep breaths. Feel your feet on the floor. Get really grounded. Bring your focus and attention from out there to in here. God, help us to set aside everything we think we know to leave space for what we have yet to learn. Okay. All right. So this talk turned out to be very different than I thought it was going to be when I came up with the topic and was thinking about what I wanted to do. When I first came up with the topic, which is foundational self-care, my intention was to go over very specific types of self-care, and I will do a smidge of that. But after reviewing the materials on this subject and thinking about it a little bit more, it's like abstinence. Everyone's foundational self-care methods will be different because you will get nourished and nurtured and replenished by different things than I would. And that makes sense. So your foundational self-care methods are going to be specific and individual, just like you are. So what I want to talk about today, what I'm going to talk about more today, is the concept of foundational self-care and the attitude to take about it. Okay. So as I always do, back it up a bit. What do I mean when I say foundational self-care? Now, the dictionary of foundational is, quote, underlying basis or principle, fundamental, unquote. Now, Bill used architectural terms in the big book all over the place. Our abstinence is built on a foundation of self-care. We can't get, and we certainly can't stay abstinent without caring for ourselves. And it's something that we are really crappy at. I put everyone's needs above my own, my martyrdom, because that's what it is. Don't like that word, but that's what it is, if I'm honest. My martyrdom gets dressed up in all these fancy clothes of being kind, being nice, being generous. Oh, and the worst of all, being spiritual. This, of course, is a crock of crap. My martyrdom, at its most basic, was just a technique I used to control and manipulate the people around me so I would get what I want. And if you want to jump over to the Enneagram for a second, I am a type 6. And the manipulation and control that I tried to do was all around making myself feel safe and secure. So I would manipulate and people please in order to feel safe and secure. And so you might want to even look at it, your own martyrdom, from your Enneagram type, if you so choose, to take a look and see what is behind the motivation of that. And for probably 99% of us, the bottom line want with this martyrdom and being nice and people pleasing, the number one want we want is to be left alone so we can eat. Just leave me alone so I can eat in peace and get what I need from eating. Now, you've heard it said that this is a selfish program. Have you guys heard that? That 12-step recovery programs are selfish because you cannot stay sober, clean, or abstinent without taking care of your basic needs. So by definition, addiction is the way we try to get our basic needs met. So we have to learn a whole new system of getting those needs met now in a more life-affirming way instead of a life-destroying way, which is what we do through our addiction. Okay, so I said earlier about the importance of the attitude we take toward self-care, the attitude we take toward it. So how do you approach this journey of learning how to take care of and to meet your needs and cope with life without self-medicating with food? I like the metaphor of the hero's journey. It's a great attitude to have toward your abstinence and your recovery. If you don't think that recovery is a hero's journey, then you are not an addict. Because anyone who's been an addict absolutely understands that recovery is a gargantuan undertaking. And it's not for the faint of heart. So there's a basic structure to the hero's journey. Three major steps to the hero's journey. First, the hero decides to answer the call, and I would say a sacred call, toward wholeness and healing. We decide we're going to answer this call toward wholeness and healing. And then the second phase of the hero's journey is the hero going through all kinds of struggles and obstacles and defeats and picking themselves back up again as they work toward the goal of recovery. And then the third phase of the hero's journey is the hero returns to their community as a transformed person and shares their gift with the rest of the community. And that, to me, describes the 12 steps perfectly, absolutely perfectly. So there's this guy at the University of California, Santa Barbara. He works in the Student Health Service Alcohol and Drug Program. His name is Hugh Cook. And he wrote an article laying out the hero's journey over the 12 steps. And this is what he said. Step 1, we are living in our world of addiction and come to a place of hitting bottom. So we kind of wake up to the fact of our addiction. Step 2, there's a call to adventure, and that adventure is recovery. Step 3, then, and I think we often try and forget this part, but step 3, there is a refusal of the call. We think about it, we get excited about it, and then we stomp on the brakes. We tell ourselves it's too hard. I can't do this. Why can't I have a piece of birthday cake at my birthday party? This is the stage of repeated slips and relapses. Step 4 is when the hero meets a mentor or a guide to help show the way to them, the way toward recovery and healing, the way toward wholeness. Step 5, the hero crosses the threshold and it can be painful. It's like that making a decision that we talked about a few days ago. Crossing that threshold is truly making that decision, truly being all in and walking through the doorway into whatever is next. We wake up, we see the truth of our addiction and the truth of what it will take to get and stay abstinent. Step 6, here the hero undergoes tests and discovers allies and enemies. We find out what and who support our recovery and what and who sabotage it. These things can be internal, like attitudes, beliefs, or habits, or external, like people, environments, or situations. Sometimes this discovery is very painful when we bump up into a relationship that we know is sabotaging us, and that we may have to let it go if we're going to do recovery. Step 7, this is when the hero approaches the innermost cave. We enter the place of secrets, of what we must learn in order to recover. In step 8, here the hero experiences an ordeal. We undergo a challenge. We face our discomfort and we move through it. We do this not for ourselves, but for a greater purpose. Step 9. This is the spiritual awakening. Our reward for all of our hard work. This awakening allows us to live in recovery. Step 10 marks the transition back to the ordinary world. We come back into our ordinary world more fully after doing this really intensive work in recovery that we've done. And this is where we live our new truth. This is where we continue to learn and grow in abstinence. There's a Japanese concept that I love, and I think I'm pronouncing it right, but if I'm not, I apologize. It's called Kaizen, Kaizen, and it means continual improvement, continual growth, always moving toward continual growth and improvement. So I love that. Step 11. This is our resurrection, where we defeat our enemy, the life of addiction, and become the person our higher powers meant us to be. And then step 12, the hero returns to their community with the elixir. This is the sacred gift of your journey to be shared with your community. Yeah, that sounds like a hero's journey to me. I found this thing that I thought was really interesting about the word addict or addicted. In ancient Rome, being addicted meant you had just been sentenced to slavery. You'd be forced to work until you paid off your debt. I believe we owe a debt to ourselves, to our higher powers, to our communities, and to all of the 12 steppers that came before us. That debt is paid by undertaking the work involved in abstinence and the 12 steps. You notice that I didn't say that debt is paid by sponsoring 16 people. Sponsorship is a form of paying back a debt. But really, I see sponsorship as a sacred giving and a sacred sharing of ourselves. And the debt, because debts are never pleasant, the debt is actually doing the work of the 12 steps, doing the work of getting and staying abstinent. That's the debt we're paying off. So the hero's journey to me sounds a lot different than just going on a diet. Sounds like a lot more. And it also sounds like it's a lot more sacred. It's a lot more spiritual. It has a lot more meaning than a diet. It is a calling. We are called to do this. Equating abstinence with dieting is just telling yourself you only have to change one thing in life, what you put in your mouth. And that is a lie, as we have proved to ourselves hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. Also, and probably the most important of all, seeing abstinence as just a diet robs you of the incredible, transformative, sacred journey of recovery. One of my favorite quotes that I really like to use, particularly with sponsees, it's by Alex Lickerman, MD. Defeat comes not from failing, but from giving up. Defeat comes not from failing, but from giving up. Okay, so what are my foundational? This is when I'll go a little bit into the specifics. What are my foundational self-care habits or methods that support me on this sacred hero's journey? I'll be honest, I'm very dull, but the first and foremost, it's sleeping. My brain just doesn't function as well if I don't get at least 8 hours of sleep. I'm one of those people, and I just have to cop to it and take care of myself around it. I did a whole lecture on sleep and obesity, the relationship between sleep and obesity in the Step 1 Science workshop, if you want to check that out. My second foundational self-care method is nutrition. That is not the same thing as diet. This is about eating the most nutrient-rich foods I can find. I think of my food plan, and I've said this a couple of times already, I think of it as my medicine, and I want to take the best and most effective medicine I can get my hands on 3 times a day. So sleeping and nutrition. The next self-care I do is connection. Now, this has always been very tricky for me. I'm an introvert, and so I'm not out there connecting all the time with everybody. It's too hard for me. But close connection with a few people in program works beautifully for me. And I would consider that my God squad. We talk, the 3 of us talk almost every day. And we read things together, we do steps together, we answer questions together, we support each other, we celebrate victories, and we mourn defeats together. There is just something, I've heard a lot of people in programs say that our higher powers never meant us to go through this alone, never meant us to do recovery by ourselves. And I have to agree, there is something alchemical that happens when a group of people get together for the purpose of recovery. It's just magical. And you may not like everybody in the room. You don't have to. There is just something magical when human beings get together for something like this. And so connection is really important. Now, connection is not important like it's important to an Enneagram 2. For me, it's not that level of importance, but it is still very, very, very important. Fourth thing that I do, fourth method or self-care method that I use is quiet time and meditation. This I think, to be honest with you, is the most nurturing and nourishing self-care that I do, because it's just me and my higher power. I take an hour every morning to spend time with my higher power in meditation, and I do two-way prayer. And this is when I get my guidance from my higher power for the day. And I depend on that guidance to keep me in recovery. Now, if you've never heard of two-way prayer, I'll give you the quick 3-minute description. Two-way, okay. Remember in the big book when Bill talks about the Oxford group, and that was Dr. Bob was in it, and some of the really early AAers were in the Oxford group. And there was actually a subgroup within the Oxford group that were drunks. And that's kind of the birthplace or the nursery for AA. And Bill W. split off the drunk squad from the Oxford group and formed AA. One of the main practices of the Oxford group was two-way prayer. And it was where it very simply, you are having dialogue with your higher power. You know, you journal about what's happening, you ask for guidance about what's happening, and then you sit quietly and you listen. And there are, if you want more information on two-way prayer, there's a website, twowayprayer.org. And it's actually Father Bill W., who's been in recovery for 40 plus years. I think it's funny that it's Bill W. And he teaches the two-way prayer method. And Lois and Dr. Bob, I don't know if Bill did it, but I know Lois and Dr. Bob and Dr. Bob's wife did two-way prayer for their entire lives. I don't know if Bill did or not. But you can tell when he's talking about step 11, he talks about communication with your higher power, like what you would get from two-way prayer, an intuitive thought and an inspiration, a decision. You know, it's those kinds of things. So if you're interested in it, check out that website. I find it to be a very useful practice. So I typically teach all my sponsees that practice. Some of them really get into it, some of them don't. You only use what works for you. That's the important part. So let's get to our question. Okay. How do you want to approach the journey of abstinence? What attitude do you want to take? What foundational self-care methods will support you on this journey? Okay, I'll give you 5 minutes and then we'll come back and we'll share.
Thanks for recovering with us.